everybody, Ryan Madore here, and welcome to a bass lesson about the major pentatonic and just a fun groove, because there's nothing better than hanging out, playing bass, and just vibing out with a good groove. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about the bass line to Little Birdie, which is a Vince Guaraldi tune, and it's great for practicing the major pentatonic. So if you want to get tab or notation for this, head over to my Patreon page and you can find it there. But in the meantime, we're going to talk a little bit about this lesson. We're going to practice working in the key of A flat. Whoa, we're going to play some flat keys and go over some fun major pentatonic moves. So to orient ourselves, we're going to play an A flat major pentatonic. Now, if you're not too familiar with the major pentatonic, you kind of take your major scale, which if you're playing an A flat, you can kind of begin with your 4-fret span shape like so, or you could play the 5-fret span shape, which I kind of find to be helpful here, which are, if I were to start with my index finger and play the root note, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. That's a great major scale 5-fret span fingering. And I'm going to play the major pentatonic, so I'm going to omit scale degrees 4 and 7, so that I'm just left with my root note, the 2nd, the 3rd, the 5th, the 6th, and the octave. And now I'm going to actually just take this, get this really comfortable, and realize that this is actually the foundation for lots of major sounding bass lines that kind of lean soul, R&B, little jazzy. You know, this tune, Little Birdie, is kind of the Peanuts kind of thing. Vince Guaraldi, great like keyboard intro, and it's just like a wonderful vibe. But it's very happy sounding, very pleasant. It's going to feel very major pentatonic. And so the groove itself is going to be based upon the root, then the 3rd, the 5th, the 6th, and then the 3rd, 5th, and 6th again, and then the 5th and the 6th. So it can be a little bit of a tongue twister because you're kind of bopping between all of these notes pretty quickly, but you're going root, 3rd, 5th, 6th, 3rd, 5th, 6th, 5th, 6th, and that's the main part of the groove. So I would just rock that and just play it over and over again. Just to kind of get comfortable with that. And I kind of stick to my rock and roll fingers here, where I'm basically using my index finger and then my pinky, and my index and pinky again. So once you get comfortable with that, all you do is you take this and scooch it down a whole step to G flat. So we're going to come down here, and the chords on this song really just go between an A flat and a G flat major. So the cool thing is that this bass line works, and it's just shifting down a whole step. So you can take that same groove and then move it on down, and then you come back up, take it back down. And that's the vibe, you know, it's this phrase the whole time. So once you get comfortable with it, you can kind of just go back and forth between those two chords and find those major pentatonic shapes. And then you can say like, well, the purpose to me of grooves like this is that it becomes like a wonderful kind of like inspiration point to help you develop your own grooves and come up with things if you're going to jam with the drummer, if you're kind of writing your own pieces or composing your own bass lines. Being able to come up with something that's kind of like fun, pleasant, and major pentatonic sounding is great. And then you can kind of take it and put it in different places on the fretboard. So I like to kind of, when I'm playing a groove like this, take it to a different register and see how it would feel there. So while the recording may kind of just stay in this zone, if I'm going to be using this and exploring this space a little bit, what I'll do is I'll find it an octave higher, but in this part of the neck. So I'll start from the A flat here, and then I'll go to the G flat here. And so I'll kind of just play around with finding the groove there, and then realizing that this groove uses really just the root, the major 3rd, the 5th, and the major 6th. And so if I orient myself around this A flat, I can find my 5th and 6th lower, and then I can play up. So I actually have a lot of different notes under my fingertips. If I were to start here, play up the octave, and back down. So it's really great for improvising and kind of flowing around this part of the register. And then you can kind of like slide down to the G flat down here. So you can kind of keep with the same chords, but be able to kind of seamlessly go back and forth as you're improvising and coming up with different ways to play this groove. And, we can kind of you'd move around and play back and forth. It's really fun to be able to do that and find that flexibility on the fretboard. And then you can take it up even higher and kind of find your vibe over here. So I like to find this A flat here on the 11th fret, and you can kind of find that same bass line. And over here, you can either choose to play it with that 5 fret span fingering, or you might be able to find that 4 fret span fingering, where I'm kind of playing my root, 3rd, 5th, 6th in your kind of regular major pentatonic scale shape, where, you're sticking to your 4 fret span and you're starting with your middle finger. But the cool thing about that is it kind of lends itself to being able to play certain chords and having notes ring out. So while you're not necessarily playing the exact theme, it's a great way to kind of play around with it and get creative where you improvise your own parts. And as you can see, I'm still following those same 2 chords, going from that A flat to the G flat and then returning. And it just sounds very pleasant, very musical. And so this is just a really cool exercise in taking a very basic, simple groove that's just rooted in this major pentatonic concept, something you should totally be familiar with, and then learning how to put it on different places of the neck, because that's really where fretboard freedom and understanding where you can move and having flexibility comes from. It comes from being able to take the same kind of shapes and concepts that maybe live in one part of the bass and put it somewhere else. And that kind of flexibility is something that is, really worthwhile when you put the time into it. So I hope you enjoyed this and that this becomes something that you can, one, just like vibe out on, groove with, work on your timing, work on your feel, and 2, use as a springboard for, creative interpretation of this groove and building your own bass lines. So again, if you want to get tab or notation, anything like that, please head over to my Patreon page and you can find it there. And in the meantime, happy practicing, everybody. Keep it groovy.